Hi, Tracy here with another scrapbooking process video. I actually forgot to press record at the beginning and I missed some of my process, but luckily I happened to be live streaming while I was creating this page. So the footage here at the beginning is different, but it's only for about 2 minutes or so, and then we switch back into the other camera. So just ignore me talking over on the side there and just watch the main part of the screen. I have 3 potential photos picked out here that I will be scrapbooking, and I'm not sure which one. I know that I want to use the November kit from the Hip Kit Club, and so I have the main kit and the embellishment kit here, as well as extra paper and cardstock that coordinate with the kit, and I have all of those supplies picked out. I just familiarize myself with the embellishments because it is my first time scrapping with this kit. I'm drinking some Christmas tea here while I scrapbook and having a look at the paper. At this point, I'm thinking I'm leaning towards either the Santa photo or the Christmas tree photo with my cat, and I would really love to do a very minimalist page, but I'm not going to end up doing that. So this star paper really appeals to me as a background paper, and then I also really love that pink plaid paper as well, and so I'm trying to decide which of those I might want to use as a background. I really like that snowflake one with the blues because it looks so masculine, but I really love this floral pattern. It's kind of like all kinds of berries and holly leaves and stuff, and it looks very, very Christmassy to me, so I thought I would use that, and that's the back side of that pink plaid that I really love. And then I noticed that the manufacturer's strip was this really neat candy cane with some blues in it as well. So I decided to use basically all of the pattern papers that I'm using are from the same Hip Kit Club exclusive paper from the November kit. And it has the holly berries on one side, the plaid on the other side, and then the manufacturer's strip is that candy cane type of stripe. So now this is another paper from the kit. It looks like it's from the Sweater Weather collection. I didn't hang on to the manufacturer's strip, so I can't remember for sure. But I'm pretty sure it's from, and there we go. Now I finally remembered to press record on my camera, so we're back to the normal footage here. Sorry about that. I thought it was better to include just the part where I chose my papers and stuff rather than come in at this point. And so you saw that I just kind of pulled off a couple of chunks of the papers, and I really liked how they layered together, so I didn't have to change the shapes of them at all. And now I'm just trying to decide what my background will be. What I like about the wood grain is that it picks up on some of the orangey wood tones and neutrals in the photo itself, and you can see how I'm going to have a very different look if I use that as my background versus if I use white as my background. And because I had initially set out to create a pretty minimalist page, the white background was appealing to me, even though it's not really going to be a minimalist page at all. I was thinking I might just do like a photo, a layer of paper, a splatter of embellishments, and that would be it. But this one is going to be more of my standard style of scrapbooking. It's hard, I guess, for me to push myself outside of my comfort zone because these papers are so pretty and I just want to layer them all together because they just work so well together. So I'm just making these layers so that you can see little pieces of each of the papers, and I wanted that strip, the candy cane looking strip that I'm cutting right now, I wanted it to go in the exact same angle that the photo is, so I'm just going to use my Stampin' Up! Snail adhesive to attach that right under the photo. And I really like how these layers are looking. So now I'm just thinking about what I'm going to do on this background paper, because the background as it is, there's nothing wrong with a white cardstock background, but I feel like this is a little bit too sparse for the layout that I have in mind now. So it might have been more in line with what I had in mind originally, but now that I've started layering papers and stuff, I decided I'd like to put some type of mixed media on the background. So I flipped the paper over because I wanted to use the flat side instead of the textured side. And I'm going to use, this is I think it might be made by Basil. It's one of those non-stick mats, and I won it from scrapbook.com several years ago on their International Scrapbooking Day crop. And I am using some golden light molding paste. That is my very favorite brand of texture paste. And so I just grabbed a paper plate. I inked some of that Distress Oxide that came in the color kit from November from the Hip Kit Club. And right away, I'm really impressed with the amount of pigment in that. I only took a tiny amount of the ink on the bottom of the plate, and it is providing a whole lot of color. In fact, much more than I wanted, which means that I end up needing to add a lot more texture paste than I really needed for this project. And this is the mask or stencil that came in the kit as well. And it has this really cute cross-stitched or knitted type of pattern. I put it in 3 different places, and then I added some up here because I wanted some to be on either side of that candy cane stripe, like on the top and on the bottom. Then I was kind of regretting not just putting a lot more, and so I just went ahead and stenciled right over this. I didn't wait for it to dry, and then I thought I might want to put a little secondary cluster up in the top left hand corner, so I added some stencil there as well. And I really love how this looks. It looks quite messy right now, but once you put the layers on top of it, it looks quite a bit better. So the nice thing about mixed media is it doesn't have to be perfect. It's supposed to look a little bit messy. I'm going to add some splatter to this as well so that it looks even messier. I'm just waiting for it to dry now, and this stuff really doesn't take very long at all to dry. It's designed to dry quite quickly. That's what I love about Golden products. They are a little bit pricier than some of the other supplies that you can get. Like, you can probably get texture paste for less expensive, but I really enjoy the texture of this stuff. It dries to be very similar to the consistency of Fun Foam, so it's very kind of soft and spongy. And my layout's doing a little dance there. I must be talking. Sorry about that. So I like the consistency to which it dries, and I also really, really love the drying time. I used my heat gun there, but I really probably didn't even need to. So now I'm going to use my sewing machine here. This is my Janome, I almost said So Mini. It's the New Home sewing machine, and I'm just messing around with the cords a little bit. And yeah, so I'm going to do my sewing just all the way down the vertical strip that I have going on here. So basically I'm sewing along that manufacturer's strip, and one amount of sewing just wasn't enough, like one pass. So I'm going to go back down it again. And then I'm going to go down it a third time. Third time's the charm, so they say. So that's what I'm going to do here. It's nice to do 3. Somehow my my needle had come unthreaded. I'm not sure how or why, but it just did. So I just had to re-thread it there. And sorry that I didn't change the camera angle here. I didn't even really think about it at all. So I'm sorry about that. I try to give you guys different angles when I do my sewing, just so that you can see. Some people are familiar with sewing on scrapbook pages and other people aren't. So I like to include the footage just so you can see how it works. It's basically the same as sewing on paper or on fabric. I don't change my needle or use any special settings or anything. And so here we are with my background paper again. And this step was really, if I had to do it again, I would have skipped this step. So I added some white splatter just because I really love tone-on-tone white splatter. It just adds a little bit of extra detail. Now I'm also going to add some Heidi Swapp Color Shine in gold. And the reason I would skip the white splatter step is that adding white splatter early on really just is calling for trouble, because it doesn't, especially the Mr. Huey's opaque white, it really doesn't dry very well, and I end up getting it all over my hands, and you will see in the process that it's really just adds messiness. For the little tiny amount of detail that it adds, I really don't think it's worth it to add the white tone on tone. If it was a different color, like if the background was a different color so that it would show up more, it might have been more worth the hassle. But because it's just white tone on tone, it makes very, very little impact, and it makes quite a lot of messiness. So I prefer white tone on tone splatter. I like to add it at the end so I don't have to contend with my fingers throughout the process. I can just add it at the end and then let it dry. So I am trying to let that dry while I design on this, on the cluster. And that's why I'm designing on the cluster, is because I just wanted to set that aside and let it dry a little bit without having to use a heat gun. So I'm going through the embellishments that come in this kit. These are the Hip Kit Club exclusive die cuts. And I came upon that little kitten in a stocking, and I thought that that was adorable. So I took it out and put it with the photo that I'm not scrapbooking in this session, because the next time I scrapbook that photo, I'll want to remember that I have that die cut that I definitely want to use with that photo. So then I was live streaming with my patrons while I created this layout, and so someone had a question about the glitter on that snowflake and whether the glitter would come off of it. Because sometimes you get glittered die cuts, and sorry, I'm eating a piece of cake as well. My husband came home and brought some cake with him. So anyhow, sometimes glitter just makes a mess everywhere. Well, these snowflakes, they're die cuts from the Snow and Cocoa collection from Crepe Paper. They have the kind of glitter that's really embedded into the die cut, so they don't make a mess at all. So that's all that I was talking about there. So now I chose this reindeer because, first of all, he's so darn cute. He's very fancy looking with his scarf and his very fancy antlers. But I really like him on this layout, because Papa loves deer. He actually hunts deer, but he also really loves deer. So we'll focus on the loving deer part instead of the eating deer part. I wish the deer was facing the other way, but I think he works because he's mostly looking out. He's not looking off the page. I really don't like people and creatures on my layouts to be looking in opposite directions like that, unless if they're looking towards one another. But anyhow, I added that little chipboard frame from Pink Fresh Studio around the Santa photo, and I want to use this little strip of trees, but I think the scale is wrong. It's too small to go beside my reindeer. So I noticed that there were some other separate trees, and I thought what I would do is I would make myself a little strip of trees using these puffy stickers from Pink Fresh Studio, and they will kind of mirror the little strip of trees that I'm putting up in my secondary cluster in the left-hand side. And they're very similar trees. They're designed to look almost identical to one another, so that's nice. Now I have these 3 glitter snowflakes that I want to use in these 3 different places. And I'm just gluing the snowflakes onto the back of my cluster just so that I can decide where I want the overall cluster to go after a while. So placing this glitter snowflake right there covers up one of the larger splats of gold that I really wasn't liking, so that fixes a problem for me. And I will trim off the extra tree and the extra part of that asterisk looking snowflake as well in a few minutes. So now I'm just thinking about what other embellishments I might want to add to this. And I'm kind of thinking thematically as well as design wise. So I felt like I needed some dark elements. So that medallion type sticker adds a little pop of black onto my page. And then I love these pleather stickers, and I just wanted to get some of the texture from the pleather stickers from the Hip Kit Club. They're exclusive to the kit, and I didn't want to put it right beside that candy cane strip though, because the stripes go a different way, and so I didn't want it to be right exactly next to it. So I'm going to just put it in 2 places. I was originally thinking about putting it in 3 places, but I'll just skip the one down by the reindeer because I can't get it to work. So that adds a little bit of extra texture to this page. I already have lots of texture going on between the mixed media on the background and then the glitter and the stars and puffy stickers and lots of things going on here. Now I wanted to add a touch of that dark shade up in the top corner as well. So I found this puffy sticker that says Holly Jolly, and so I decided to layer it in behind some of the trees. And that means that I have a little bit of black in each of my 2 clusters. I don't really feel like I need more in the top. Like if you think about that 3rd snowflake as being a cluster, it's really not. It's really just a snowflake is up there. It's not there's not going to be any other embellishments with it. So this layout basically has 2 clusters instead of 3. Pardon me. So I adore these gold scripty letters from the Hip Kit Club. Like, I really, really love them. It's my very favorite font, and I am so pleased that they made them in gold for this kit. Oh, I love it. I wish I had like 20 packages of them. They're so awesome. Then I would never use any of my other letter stickers though. So what I did now was I actually rolled over to my Razcog, which is where I keep my letter stickers. I happen to have the footage, so I thought I would just pop it in here so you could see me looking through my Razcog and trying to decide which color to use. Now, some of the people who are watching me on my live stream were suggesting either blue or pink and red, and so I thought about those 2 blue ones and they weren't really appealing to me. And then I remembered I had these red glitter letter stickers. They're called Journal is the font, and I believe Journal is a font that was popularized by Amy Tangerine. And wow, they're so awesome. I don't know if you saw the look on my face when I found them, but I was very happy. At first I thought I didn't have enough A's, but I was willing to use a V and then a piece of something else to make an A out of the V, but then I realized I did have 2 A's, so that was even better. So I'm going to spell out the word hey so that the Y, the descender in the Y, fills in that space between the trees. There's a little space where the navy blue tree is shorter than the 2 trees beside it. So I think that that's going to fit absolutely perfectly. I thought for a second there that I didn't want the gold star to be right next to the gold letters. And then I thought, I kind of like it there, even though I don't always like to put 2 colors right beside each other, like the same color right beside each other like that. I thought, oh, well, it's fine. It doesn't matter. You don't have to always follow those kinds of rules. I liked how it looked there better, even though it was not the right color. It kind of is the right color because I need it to balance off with the other gold glittered snowflakes. So sometimes you just have to work with what you've got. You might not have the perfect scenario to make everything perfectly balanced. And if you've got it enough, like if you follow design principles or make the page in a way that looks visually pleasing to you, then those sorts of little details when you don't have exactly the right supplies to pull off exactly the look that you're going for, it won't really matter. I like how this page looks, even though those 2 gold things are right beside each other. So I decided to add an exclamation point here, just for additional emphasis. And also, I think it just looks nicer with a slightly longer word there, with the word Santa. So as long as it makes sense to put an exclamation point, it is a really nice way to add a little bit of length to a word if from a design perspective you wish your word was a little bit bigger. Another nice thing to do to make a word a little bit bigger to fit with your design would be to put asterisks in front of and behind it. And that can kind of space it out a little bit. Or you could space out the letters as well, more than I did here. So I'm adding some more of those puffy stickers. These are the stars, and I decided to pair each star with a little enamel dot. And I was really wishing that these enamel dots were even tinier than they are. They are the smallest enamel dot on the package, and they're pretty standard sizes. But sometimes I really wish that there was an even smaller enamel dot. I don't think anybody makes one smaller than that. I decided to add a little bit more plaid to this page. I love the plaid pattern paper, that pink plaid on the background, or not really on the background, but behind some of the layers. But I wanted to add a little bit more, so I added. It says "Believe," and I layered it on top of the darker green tree. Here I'm adding some red plaid right here and some more green plaid up here. It just brings some green. I needed some green up here as well, so I wanted to add plaid as a design element that would repeat in 3 different places, and I also wanted to add some green up to the top cluster. And it also kind of tones down the fact that there was a little bit too much gold beside each other, like with the snowflake and the word hey. And here I'm just talking, this is just something extra, but I'm just talking about how I like to do visual storytelling instead of doing a whole ton of journaling, that for a bunch of different reasons. But I like to have photos tell most of my stories, so that I don't have to do extensive journaling on my page. So right here, and I was just using that photo as an example. It's a picture of us baking, but I included a whole lot of context so that I didn't have to tell a big long story verbally with that photo. So for this one, I'm thinking about, am I going to do journaling or not? While I think about that, I'm going to staple down those plaid elements in the places where I added them and where my stapler can reach. I like my staples to all go the same direction, so they're all going vertical on this layout. And that's just my own little quirk. It's not like a rule or something, but I just like that look. It just makes the staples look kind of more pulled together than random. Now I am going to do a tiny bit of journaling. I'm going to do it in this gray pen, which I love this gray pen because it does look like I wrote it in pencil, and I really like that. It says, before the photo shoot, Santa enjoys a peaceful moment. And I have other photos that I'm going to scrapbook about Santa and Mrs. Claus, and so those will tell a little bit more of a story. But this one, I just wanted to capture. He didn't pose for this photo. He was looking out the window, and I just snapped a shot of him. And so it really was. He has a busy day of taking pictures with kids, and he had some health problems this year, so his knees are not all that strong for having kids sitting on them all day. So it really was him taking a moment of peace before what would end up to be a very, very busy day. So I'm glad I got a chance to snap that shot. I'm adding some of these wooden buttons from the Hip Kit Club, and I'm just pulling off the foam adhesive that is behind them. That foam adhesive is handy to have. It makes them really easy to stick down to your page, but sometimes I like to have them be a little bit less dimensional, and so I replace it with a glue dot. And that's my little roll of Zott glue dots there, and I'm just replacing them. And when I'm done, it ends up that those two are too close together, so I want them spaced kind of evenly in the two spots where they show up. And I feel like the top cluster that says Hey Santa is really just a little bit too cluttered up to add more elements to. So I'm actually not going to add any of those wooden buttons to the top. Even though I could, it would be a nice way to repeat them. I just felt like I didn't need to, and I really didn't want to put any more things on the top. It was already has a little bit more than what I normally would put on in a secondary cluster. Whew, I got a little tongue-tied there. Sorry about that. So now I am going to show you this layout. I guess I'm going to tidy up a little bit first, but there it is. So here's how it looks up close. I'm really pleased with how this one turned out. It's my first holiday layout of the season, and I think that it was a really fun way to warm up to this kit and familiarize myself with the contents. I have lots of ideas of pages that I want to make with some of the other supplies that come in this November scrapbooking kit from the Hip Kit Club. And I also have lots of December daily ideas for cards that I want to include in my December daily project or my December documented project. I really prefer calling it December documented because I don't really intend for there to be a card or a page for each day. I'm really going to focus on just documenting all of the little moments of the holiday and not feel pressure to have a certain amount or a certain number or do it at a certain rate. And I am purposely waiting a little bit into the season before I get started on my December documented, just because I want to live my December and have some moments to scrapbook before I get to the point where I am sitting down and documenting all of those little moments. So I hope that you guys found this process video fun and helpful and inspiring to watch. If you are new to my channel, please click the button in the center of your screen there to subscribe to my channel to see more videos from me. Also check out these other videos and have yourself a really great scrappy week.